Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from the Legal Action Group, which is a very important organisation for practitioners in the legal profession. The reason I say that is because they provide very concise documents which are of great help to advocates. And normally you will see their books in a courtroom when you're actually attending any form of proceeding. Now, the book I'm looking at today is one which they produce annually, and it's on legal aid. It's the Legal Aid Handbook, and this one is for 2017 to 18. They've done a number of press releases in the past, and I've attended the actual presentations of early editions of this book, which had been written by two people, Vicky, Ling and Pugh, with Anthony Edwards assisting. This is the book here. As I say, I've met both of the authors and they are very experienced people. This is the book anyway. It's a paperback, and there's the spine, and then on the back you've got various pieces of information. You can see there's a shaded section at the back, which is the appendices, and that actually covers the most important part of this, which is LASPO. That's the Legal Aid Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act 2012, and it's Schedule 1, and it sets out the basic position we're in at the moment. The book runs to something like 540 odd pages. There's a useful index which is at the back. The index has paragraph numbering, so you should find things quite easily. The front of the book, there is the main front part. I would like to point out something, and that is that the book is now available as a website. So if you go to Legal Aid, it's actually www.legalaidhandbook.com. That's the actual website itself. And that will give you updates, which I think is very, very useful for anybody involved in legal aid work. And then there's some basic information. It's available as an eBook as well. And then there's a dedication to Andrew Wilson, which is, I'll put that there for you to see. And then we get to the preface. And thanks to Esther Pilger and all the people at LAG for the work they've done in producing this again. Then you've got a list of contributors. And I'm going to mention the contributors as well, because you've got Vicky, Ling and Pugh, who are the main editors, and then you've got an additional number of people: Katie Brown, Richard Charlton, Anthony Edwards, who does the criminal side, Steve Hynes, who will be known to most people, who deals with policy, and Solange Valdez-Symonds. Then you get on from the contributors to the contents section. You can see how it's structured there. And then you move from that, from the various chapter headings. There you can see running through. Total number of chapter headings, 21, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 appendices, which you've got there. Then you've got the table of cases, not that many. Then table of statutes, of course, and statutory instruments, and so forth. Then some European and international material, which is making a quite important presence at the moment in a lot of these textbooks. Then you've got the abbreviations section there, which I found very helpful, and the glossary. Again, there are lots of terms used here. I did find the glossary very helpful. I like Mackenzie advisor, a person who is present at a hearing to advise and assist, but not represent a party. In other words, they should keep quiet. Putting it bluntly, they don't always, though, I can tell you. Now, this is the chapters. Each chapter has a rather more detailed structure of the index right at the beginning. Then there's the introduction, and it follows through logically with all the basic information, and that's how the book runs through. The paragraph numbering is at the side, and from time to time there are some sort of footnotes. Not too much footnoting, but sufficient to find what you're looking for. A very good book, and I'm delighted to be able to review it again. So what do Elizabeth and I say about the book? As I've said, the book has a number of contributors, and it's a publication from Legal Action Group, the Access to Justice charity. Now, what I say here with our title is LAG gives us a first-class service for 2017 to 18 for all involved in legal aid since LASPO, because we do really have to look at the defining moment. Now, when I wrote this review, we did not know there was a general election. We do now know that an election is on the 8th of June. I'm recording this prior to the election, of course, and we don't know what will happen. But what I do know is that when I wrote the review, we were looking at a new piece of legislation going through the House of Commons, a courts bill. Now that has fallen, and that means therefore that the plans that I think the Ministry of Justice had in post to do a fairly substantial and robust review of LASPO will now be put back a bit, but I'm certain that we will hear more about that after the 8th of June. So my review has to be taken in the round, bearing in mind that we have the general election. So what we say about the book is this: we've reviewed a number of editions of this excellent annual work from LAG in the past and have no hesitation, of course, in recommending it as a prime text for all involved in legal aid matters. And the aim of the two lead editors, that's Vicky, Ling and Simon Pugh, is to make the new edition as relevant and useful to legal practitioners and legal aid practitioners as possible, and they do just that. Now, a number of additional contributors who I've mentioned give the work as much variety as possible. Now, let me explain what they've done. That includes Solange, Valdez-Symonds and Richard Charlton, who cover immigration and mental health schemes. And Anthony Edwards writes the crime chapters to go with his own LAG work, which is on criminal costs, which we reviewed separately. Katie Brown deals with housing, and Steve Hynes contributes what is described as his usual authoritative survey of the political scheme so well. And he does, because he's trying to explain where we are with the policy implications of LASPO in an era of austerity. I mean, where we're going after Brexit, who knows? But I mean, the position at the moment is we have had to tighten our belts. But, of course, there have been a lot of knock-on effects from the massive cuts of legal aid in the legal aid budget. And that's something I'm sure the next government will grapple with. And we will make recommendations as we do. Now, this handbook has a supporting website, which can be found at legalaidhandbook.com. It's a popular innovation with a range of practitioner and academic titles, which I think is most welcome at a time of substantial digital change. So say things are on hold at the moment, but I'm sure we'll come back to online courts and all the big changes that are planned for the next 2 years. And of course this site can be used for updates, news alerts and other material of interest to the legal aid practitioner. The title remains, I think, and this is the quote which they use, an invaluable companion and essential reading for all legal aid practitioners, from caseworkers to senior partners, and clearly all legal aid lawyers and advisors shouldn't be without it. The contributors have expertly included as a one-stop shop all the information that's not currently available in one place. So LAG offers the only single volume guide to criminal and civil legal aid scheme in a relatively compact way, as well as a short, what I would describe as short form, which is readable and well laid out for ease of reference. Now, the excellent Ling and Pugh and their colleagues offer us practical step-by-step guidance on conducting cases, getting paid, advocacy, financial and contract management, performance monitoring and quality standards, and an overview of recent policy developments in about 500 odd pages. And it's a tool which is a practitioner's delight, in my opinion, because there are separate chapters on all the main areas of law covered by legal aid and sections devoted to litigators and advisors, advocates and managers. So you should have most of what you might be looking for here. And I think the system has, I mean, obviously what they're trying to do is to make the system a little bit more understandable, because I have to say in the past I have found dealing with the legal aid agency and certainly its predecessors was a bit of a nightmare, and I know my clerks did too over the years. Very complex, and any excuse and the forms will be returned. The whole thing really did not work the way it should have done, in my opinion. And so I think the handbook does give us some help in where we're now going in 2017-18. Now, the updated edition covers the following, and this is the list of what's actually available depending on what you're looking for. Full coverage of the 2017 crime contract, latest changes and updates to the civil scheme, discussion of of current case law and hot topics in legal aid practice, hints, tips and practical advice on how to manage a contract to navigate CCMS, the specialist chapters on billing, crime, public family law, private family law, housing, mental health, immigration and exceptional funding. And there's a dedicated section for advocates, which I think is particularly helpful for the young bar. Guidance on managing legal aid work and tendering for contracts, again very helpful for your clerks. And finally a full roundup of the latest policy developments at this time of change with LASPO, and before we get the promised meaningful review from the MOJ. Now, as I've said, that review is going to be delayed, but there is going to be a review. I'm well aware of that is well underway, and we will see what the results are in due course. Now, this 2017 to 18 edition is replete with case studies, checklists and practical tips, as are all LAG publications, and they reflect a hallmark, of course, of their house style with this particular publication, and we can't do our work without them, frankly. I think we get a very clear and easy to follow guidance on the ever more complex legal aid matters, so this annual, I think, remains a fundamental reading material for everyone involved in legal aid. Even today, I mean, I don't do much legal aid myself anymore, and I know an awful lot of practitioners have stopped, but there are still quite a large number out there whose main practice is legal aid, so therefore this book is fundamental. Obviously it does help for new caseworkers to have an idea of what's available, and also, of course, the more experienced lawyers and managers across the legal board. So it's a book you'll see in the courtroom, as I've said, and we think that's high honour indeed. So let me conclude by saying that the Civil Legal Aid Scheme, which is contained here, is as stated on the 1st of April 2017. I'm recording this in the same month. The crime chapters covering the new criminal legal aid contracts, they came into force again on the same day, 1st of April. So the handbook is available in both print and eBook, and I like the idea now of having the website to go with it, because there will be changes. Here's the book again. It's quite a light book, nice purple cover. There's the spine and then there's the back. Just opening it in the middle, you can see conducting a housing case. There we go. Introduction, possession cases. Again, we could find, this could be very, very important, especially with the scope of legal aid in housing work. Again, it sets out homelessness allocations and so forth and runs all the way through. We could find ourselves in a bit of a predicament with that in the future. But as I say, I think all of the main areas are covered. I'd like to thank Vicky and Simon very much, all the people at LAG, for producing this. As I've said before, you make our lives a lot easier, and I'm indebted to you because it's certainly assisted me in my early years of practice, and I'm well aware that these books are available in court and are used, of course, by judges as well as all advocates. So thank you, a big thank you to everybody concerned. Bye-bye.